It all began in the kingdom of Fountain Valley. The princess was being held captive by the mighty dragon, which proved to be the hardest battle and final test for those who wished to challenge it. For many men, it was their last battle, for they never came back alive. King Hertzfeld desperately needed to find someone to save his daughter from the dragon's evil clutches, but alas, amongst the villagers there were none brave enough to risk being added to the dragon's skeleton collection. Then, one day, a mysterious knight arrived at the castle entrance, announcing his offer to help the king. Filled with joy and relief, the king threw a celebration feast in honor of the knight. The jester, entertaining as usual, tried to distract the knight, but he was unfazed by his tricks and performance. Food was plenty, the jester was entertaining, and the people of the kingdom no longer moped. The next morning the knight set off to save the princess.
Now when the knight began his journey on foot, he did not expect so many obstacles to hinder his progress towards his goal, for he was new to this kingdom, where around every mountain and valley there were dangers to be feared. The night of the celebration, the king forewarned him about an evil monster that must be defeated before the dragon. It had been lurking around the valley and terrorizing its people for about a year, and only the most strong and skilled could defeat it. The brave knight took it to heart and swore to defeat it. The knight's first challenge appeared as he approached a dark forest.
Our hero came upon a small old cottage where a delicate old lady lived. He needed a place to rest his aching feet, and this was the only shelter he had seen in days. The old lady graciously received the knight that evening, and she even gave him tea. Little did he know that all the hospitality came at a terrible price. She insisted on him staying overnight, but the old lady was not so nice after all. He discovered she was a witch when he glanced at her basket of poisonous apples. When he asked for directions to the dragon's lair, she pointed him towards the treacherous swamps instead. The knight's journey was delayed. He finally escaped the cottage while she slept and didn't look back until it was out of sight. At last, the knight fought out the wrath of the witch, and he continued on to the princess.
King Hertzfeld had given the knight a map that led to the princess. He had one piece of advice for the knight: follow the yellow road. However, the knight took the advice in vain. He looked at the winding path and thought, I can just take a shortcut across the river here, rather than going all the way around. So he approached the river, where he came upon a bridge. He soon realized that this was no ordinary bridge, because under the bridge there was a troll. The knight was instantly overcome with fear as his eyes lay upon the ugly, grotesque being. He turned to run, but it was too late. The troll captured the knight and brought him into his lair. I am on an important quest for the king. I say, let me out immediately, cried the knight. But the troll would not take his excuses, and thus the knight's voyage was delayed for 5 long days.
Back at the kingdom, word spread of the knight and his courage. It was about time someone was sent to rescue the princess, they said. 4 long years had she been imprisoned in that horrid turret under the ever-watchful eyes of that dragon. Thinking back, they had never heard that knight state his name, nor was he renowned in those ancient archives. So who was this mysterious knight?
The troll finally lost his interest at keeping the knight in a dungeon, so the knight was released. But now he had to double his efforts in traveling if he wanted to reach the princess before it was too late. Along the way, he asked local villagers where he could receive help and guidance during his journey. They all suggested the wizard, a wise, elderly-looking man who carried a staff wherever he went. He was praised for preparing many warriors for battle against the dragon, but unfortunately not one succeeded in doing so. Exhausted and fatigued from the lack of shelter and food, our hero sought out the wizard for help. One day he stumbled upon an ancient-looking home and saw an old man carrying a large staff. He cried out, "O good wizard, will you receive the spell knight and allow his presence in your home?" The wizard allowed and took him in. The next couple of days the knight spent resting while the wizard taught him the techniques and skills that were necessary to defeat the dragon once and for all. The knight, suddenly recalling the king's warning, asked him, "And what about the infamous evil monster that terrorizes the people?" The wizard sat back and sighed. "He is a tough one. Training can take many, many months. You, however, have something special in you that I have not seen in a long time." When the knight asked what it was, the wizard said, "You will see in time."
Our hero soon returned to this journey and approached the fortress of the evil monster one early morning. The monster, hideous and terrifying as everyone described it, lashed out at the knight, showing no mercy. It managed to give him a minor wound on his arm.
The knight blocked his attacks with his strong shield and fatally stabbed the monster in the heart, ending its life once and for all. He came out of the fortress injured, and when the villagers saw what he had done, they swarmed around him, crying, "The terror is over! The monster is dead!" He graciously accepted their thanks and sheltered at their home for a few days, waiting for his arm to heal.
Although the evil monster was defeated, the knight still had his last and most important battle, to conquer the dragon and rescue the princess. He had no time to relish the moment of success, even though it was tempting, and immediately left when his health returned. The dragon's lair was far up in the mountains, whereas the valley was down below it. For weeks, the knight hiked out paths and slopes, and many times he became impatient and felt like giving up. However, he was so close to his final task, and he knew that he had to persevere through this tedious and excruciating process. As, after almost a month, he became joyous when he saw the dragon's lair. Inside, the dragon was sleeping soundly, and underneath it lay an enormous, glittering pile of gold, gems, and jewels.
The hero's eyes gleamed, but he directed his attention towards the foe and courageously ran to it. Angry that it had been awoken from its slumber, the dragon roared and fire spewed out of its mouth, its teeth as sharp and long as knives. The fight was long and grueling. The dragon wounded the knight, but he still had strength and continuously stabbed it with his sword. Finally, he punctured both of its eyes while it was screaming in pain and beheaded it. While he caught his breath and lay down to rest for a moment, a quiet voice was heard behind him. "Have you come to rescue me?" He turned around, and sure enough, it was a princess, ragged and dirty from years of captivity. She quickly descended the steps of the tower into the knight's arms, black with soot.
When they returned to the valley, the entire kingdom, including the wizard and villagers, celebrated the princess's return and the knight's success. For 4 long years we awaited a hero who would rescue our beloved princess. Now we are forever in debt to you, and you will always be welcome in the kingdom of Fountain Valley," said King Hertzfeld. The wizard told the knight, "This journey has transformed you into someone ready to face any challenge in the future. This shall only be the beginning of what you are able to achieve." And so celebrations and feasts ran throughout the kingdom for days on end. And when it was time for the knight to finally take his leave, he couldn't help but feel a bittersweet end to this incredible journey. He knew another adventure awaited him, but the memories of this adventure stayed within his heart forever.